Hello and welcome to a new podcast series by the local charity, the Energy and Sustainability Centre, also known as ESC. We have crafted 5 exciting, informative and entertaining episodes to educate the island on its journey to net zero. This series is generously sponsored by Zurich on the Isle of Man. So let's get started. In today's episode, we have 3 remarkable high school students who are passionate about sustainability. 2 from Castle Rushen High School and 1 from Queen Elizabeth II High School. Aidan, Archie and Amelie are young advocates here to spread awareness about the importance of sustainability and share actionable steps we can take today to create a better tomorrow. What do you think sustainability means? If someone says sustainability to you, what does that actually mean to you?
I think it's the big thing with it is just sort of the ability to use natural resources without having a detrimental effect on the environment, and the ability to keep that up as well for as long as you can.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's definitely meeting the needs of our present without kind of compromising what we've got in the future, so things kind of last for a longer time.
So is it something that has a sort of significance for you? Is it something you do actually think about as being important as your life, as you grow up, you finish your education, maybe go to university, get into the job market maybe? Is it something you think about as you sort of look forward?
Yeah, I definitely think about it. It definitely, because on the Isle of Man we see so much nature around us and it feels like something that's quite important to our community.
Archie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it'll have a massive impact, to be honest. I think it'll be quite an important thing going forward. And play a big role in future life.
How does this, would you say, contrast? So if you think you're going into school, obviously, on a daily basis, talking to your parents, maybe the rest of your family, how do you think, because again, we were talking yesterday about sort of a generational gap, do you think there's a difference between your viewpoint on it and the viewpoint, say, of your folks, or maybe your grandfolks, or maybe other family members who are older? Do you think you see a difference in view?
Well, I think probably it's talked about a lot more with the younger generation because it's become more of an issue and it's spoken about a lot more, so probably your grandparents wouldn't see it as much of an issue, but now with the younger years I think it's definitely spoken about a lot more.
I think the biggest reason for that as well is because we're the ones that are going to be affected by it. So with the older generations it's not going to so much affect them in their lifetime, but with us we're going to see the biggest effects of that.
And do you think you will, as you sort of grow older, you think you will see changes?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think we're already beginning to see changes, like with wildlife in the Isle of Man already. Like, there's been a decline in sort of dolphin and whale sightings since, I think it's about 2007. Those numbers have started to go down.
Okay. And what about what you can actually do about it then? So it's one thing thinking that there is an issue there. The question then is, okay, what do we do about it? And again, that usually means making a change to the way you live. Is that something you want to think about or actively do?
I think there's loads of little things that you can do in your daily life that can kind of help, just like using a water bottle to reduce waste, or making sure you turn the tap off when you brush your teeth, take shorter showers, recycle. I think there's loads of things you can do, just small things that can definitely help in the long run.
Yeah, I definitely agree, but I think it's got to be a collective. Everybody's got to be involved. You can't just have a couple of people. It's got to be whole societal change to try and improve and be more eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm. And what about things like sort of, if someone said, well, tell you what, rather than sort of taking the car or getting a lift or something, what about either, doing a bike ride or walking somewhere?
I think that would definitely, if everyone sort of took that mindset, that would begin to make a big change, as well with public transport. Use that instead of driving in the morning when you've got everyone driving to work. That's like, 400 or 500 cars on the road, when you could probably do the same in about 20 or so buses. So it cuts down a lot on how many cars and emissions there are.
So would you be prepared to sort of, going forward, would you be prepared to make a change yourself, even if it sort of cost you something? Because that's the other issue sometimes. So we're talking about in some of the other podcasts, things like buying sort of more sustainable food, and sometimes it might actually cost you a little bit more. Would you, if you were going out, and again, I'm sure we all use sort of things like eBay, Amazon Prime and such like, you can get an awful lot of stuff very cheaply and very quickly. Is that something you think about when you're sort of doing that? If you think, oh great, I need a new pair of trainers, need a new top or something, but I can just go to Amazon Prime or whatever the case may be, get it sent to me, a couple of days, no problem. However, there could be quite an impact on the environment. It could be coming over from China or India or whatever the case may be. Do you think about that?
I think everyone's probably a bit guilty of that when you see like there's loads of fast fashion stuff that makes it very easy to just give in and buy the quickest and cheapest thing. But it's definitely something that me and my friends talk about a lot with things like Shein and like Temu. There's these new like apps where you can get things delivered really quickly, super cheaply, but we are kind of talking about like, oh, is this going to have an effect in the future and should we be thinking about this more? It's definitely not something that we just look by and forget about.
So you do definitely think about it. The question is though, do you then think, well, will I change my habits and not buy so much stuff from there and just think about buying something maybe locally, maybe a bit more expensive, and perhaps, you know, wearing it for longer, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, because those things kind of last for longer, you can compromise and think, well, this is better material and it's better for the environment. So I think we definitely look at those things in a good way.
Guys, do you have a similar viewpoint in that, or do you think, well, you know what, I don't really care?
I think we're definitely not going to see change unless we do give stuff up. So like the likes of buying lots of cheaper clothes as opposed to fewer, more expensive but high quality clothes. But as well, you've got to sort of make sure that they've not been made in a way that's going to have an impact on the environment in a negative way. So it's sort of just that balance between making sure the things that you're buying are coming from a positive source, but as well as that, not buying too much stuff.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think as people change, as people want more eco-friendly stuff, I think the producing stuff, they'll change how they're doing it. I think it's just as time changes and more people become more eco-friendly and want more eco-friendly stuff, then things will change.
Now, we're all here on the Isle of Man, of course, living, working, studying, as the case may be. What do you think we hear about the Isle of Man biosphere, which I think we're sort of quite proud of, being a nation biosphere? I mean, first off, have you heard of the biosphere, Isle of Man? Is that something that sort of, you know, crosses your radar?
Yeah, I think it's something that we're all quite proud of, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had someone come in and talk about beach buddies the other day and they kind of mentioned it to us all.
Again, I suppose that's a prime example of someone making a difference and saying, right, okay, let's make a difference here. Bill, I think, set that up, and it's all volunteers, people going out, giving up their time every weekend. That's something, again, you would be prepared to do. I know, you know, you've got a busy week, you come to your weekend, it's very tempting just to go out and do things or go, you know, see your mates. But would you think, yeah, you know what, I'll go and do a couple of hours for something that will benefit the Isle of Man and the environment?
Yeah, year 12 at Castle Rushen, we did a beach clean a couple of days ago for our creativity and wellness day. So we had a full day that was just dedicated to like helping the environment. We made some bird houses, we did a beach clean and just painted some rocks and some stuff like that.
So I think through school, I think everyone's sort of done something with beach buddies, because I know they do a lot in primary school. They'll go out and help beach buddies and do a beach clean. Same in like secondary school. We did an environmental day last week for our enrichment, so we made bird houses, bug houses. We did a audit on the school, so how we can be more environmentally friendly for the Green Flag Award. But I think everyone sort of had an input on how we can be better.
Any thoughts, Archie, on that one?
No, I definitely just agree with what everybody said. Yeah.
And what do we think about sort of the Isle of Man as a whole then? Do you think the Isle of Man is doing enough to sort of be seen as providing a sustainable lifestyle, protecting the environment, thinking about sort of climate change? Obviously things like the sort of wind farms, sort of potential wind farms down the south of the island have been much in the news of late. What's your take on that? Is the Isle of Man doing enough, do you think? Should we do more? Are we doing too much?
I mean, there's definitely opportunities. Like we've done in Castle Rushen, we also raised money for the Island Woodland Trust. So I think there's lots of little charities and stuff like that we can help out in. I know the Isle of Man isn't just like obviously going for the biosphere, like it's not just ignoring all the climate change things. Like there's definitely things that they're doing to help.
I suppose, like, because the island's very small, so we have, in a way, we've got a sort of unique opportunity over here compared to, you know, Britain or the rest of the world. I mean, the world's a big old place. The Isle of Man is actually quite small in the scale of things, and there seem to be sort of two takes, and I'm just interested to hear what your take on this is, because you see, again, I'm sure you're on social media quite a bit. On the one hand, you hear people singing it, we should be doing more. Things like potential wind farms and making a change to the way we live here, and then you will see there's quite a counter argument of people saying it's all rubbish, it's, you know, not zero, it's this idea that it's all sort of a conspiracy theory and there's nothing to worry about. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think it's quite important that we do look to become more eco-friendly, but I think we've also got to realise that we're very small in the grand scheme of things. So I think we should probably try and pick and choose, to do stuff which works for us, which helps us improve, and be a bit selfish in some ways, but we have got to it is a very important, but we're very small in the grand scheme of the world.
Hmm. But do you think we can play a part by doing our bit?
Yeah, definitely. Everything counts, but there's much bigger. There's bigger nations. But I think we can definitely do something.
I think all it takes really is for people to see one small island change, and then they'll follow on in the footsteps. So if we can sort of set the groundwork really for how to become a green space, and it reduce our emissions, make ourselves better for the environment, then people will follow in that and make changes to their own lives.
I agree. I think there's definitely things we can do in the Isle of Man that can change. Obviously, we're only a small nation, but it's not that our work doesn't go unnoticed.
Hmm.
We're very close to England and Ireland, and if they see things that we're doing, they might copy.
So what about then, obviously you're all still studying at the moment, but at some stage you might go on to sort of university, college work, further study, apprenticeships and such like, but eventually heading towards the career market. Do you think career options on the island, or maybe more generally, might change in the coming years as sustainability becomes more important? And we've been hearing that, employers now, larger employers do think about the environment, they do think about sort of making sure that they are going in the right direction there for the company and also for their employees. Do you think this is going to be something that's going to be far more important and more influential by the time you get into the job market?
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be job creation, because I think some new green sectors are going to be adding new green roles to existing sectors. But in the same way, there could be job reduction, because there's also going to be sectors like that are in the brown economy, like the fossil fuel industry. There's going to be jobs that are going to be lost there, so I think it could even out.
Mm-hmm.
I think off the back of that as well, going from more fossil fuels to renewables, I think those jobs might still be able, so they can transfer through. So as we see a reduction in the use of fossil fuels, but we're going to have an increase in renewables, which is going to require a lot more jobs, because you need to create the means to make the energy, and then as well as that, you still need people to sort of run the grid, make sure that energy is going where it needs to be, and then to maintain the renewable energy sources. So I think it'll sort of balance each other out with the job loss and job creation.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think the green energy is going to become a massive sector. It's the same as recycling. It's going to become a massive sector in the economy, and it's not fully developed yet. So I think there'll be tons of careers in those sectors.
I just think things like public transport, that might become a lot more popular in the future, and we're going to need more workers for that as well.
Yeah. And what about then, sort of thinking about this, do you think you would be happy to sort of put your money where your mouth is, as they say? And so, say, a few years' time, you're going for a job somewhere, there's a couple of job opportunities, there's one which pays pretty well, but, the green credentials aren't that good, and there's another one perhaps pays a little less, but they've got really good green credentials and they're really trying to do their bit. Would you sort of think about, well, you know what, I don't know I'd want to work for the non-green one? Is it something, if you were looking at potential employees, jobs coming up, would you consider the green credentials of the company or the organisation you're going to work for?
It's definitely something that would come to your mind, but as well, I think it depends in the situation that you're in when it comes to that. So if we're still in the situation that we're in now, where it's still going sort of south and we're just about starting to make progress in slowing it down, it's definitely something I'd think about now. But maybe in 50 years' time, if we've got a good foundation and we're really starting to slow the rates down of climate change, maybe not so much. But as well, it depends what the job is. If it's a job that you don't like, I can't imagine people are going to want to go into a job they don't like, because I'm all about, I'll take a job that I enjoy that pays less, and if that is the one that is better for the environment, then it's a win-win, really.
Any thoughts, Archie?
I think it would be a factor which will come into play, but it's like lots of other factors in it, where you live, how far to travel. So yeah, it'd be a factor. It probably won't be the main factor, but yeah.
And just thoughts, we mentioned sort of again sustainability on the Isle of Man and changing the way we live, changing the way again we generate power and such like. What are your thoughts on things like the potential wind farm? It's been, like I said, in the news stream a lot of late, this idea of putting, I think it's 5 wind turbines down the south of the island. There are those who are for it and say yes, it's a good move forward, we're going in the right direction, and then of course there's a lot of people saying no, we don't need it, it's going to spoil the environment, it'll be a blot on the landscape, it's not actually going to be economically viable, they don't think it's something which the Isle of Man needs. Where do you stand on that? Do you think you must have seen it somewhere? Have you got any thoughts on that? Would you think it's a great idea? Do you think it's a rubbish idea, or no real strong thoughts on it?
I think it is the road we need to be going down, so looking towards making more of our own energy from renewables rather than taking it from England. But as well as that, I think we need to be careful not to spoil the environment that we have over here. So by putting wind turbines in, there's a good chance that you're going to have an impact on like different animals' habitats. So I think that's something you have to bear in mind when we're trying to use renewables.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you live. Some people I know down the south are really not up for it because obviously they're going to be very close to their houses and they're going to be able to just hear it all the time. But it's definitely a sacrifice that we might need to make because of the future and what it's looking like at the moment. And it's just something we might have to do and put up with.
What about you, Archie? Any
Yeah,
views?
I can definitely see both sides of the argument. I think it would make sense to have eco-friendly green energy, but I think it's just finding a compromise which works, which affects the least amount of people and affects the least amount of the environment, and try and just get a good compromise which will work for the island.
So what about, again, climate change? We see it pretty much in the news stream every day, not just on the Isle of Man, but sort of worldwide as well. It is something which affects the entire planet, of course, not just our neck of the world. What would you say are your sort of primary and main concerns about climate change? We'll start first on its impact on the Isle of Man, say. So obviously we're all on the Isle of Man at the moment. You might stay here, you might move elsewhere after you've finished your education, but either way it's still going to be an issue. So what would you say are the things that concern you most about climate change and its impact on the future of the way we live? Specifically, we'll say on the Isle of Man first, and then maybe think about the world second. So from the Isle of Man point of view, what would you say is the major concerns?
I think definitely the impact that it will have on wildlife. So we've got quite a lot of biodiversity over here, but if we keep seeing climate change go the way it is, we're going to lose some of that biodiversity, which is what makes the island what it is. It's why we are a biosphere. I think that's what a lot of Manx people are quite proud of, what we've got over here. So once that gets impacted, it sort of takes away from the island, and I think that will affect the island in lots of other different ways.
Yeah, the farming industry on the Isle of Man as well. Climate patterns changing can have quite a big impact on that, so that could be something that has a big effect.
Yeah, I think like an increase in in storms and stuff like that. I think that'll play a big role, especially with the boat getting food across every day. Getting across the UK and back. I think that'll play a big role and it could have a big impact on the island.
So looking forward generally, are you optimistic as you're sort of, you've hopefully got years and years and years of life to live, wherever it might be, here, somewhere else in the world, whatever the case is. Are you optimistic going forward? Do you think we're sort of heading in the right direction, doing enough? Or is it something that, worries you as you go older, thinking, gosh, what are we going to be like in 10, 20, 30, 40 years' time?
It's definitely something I think about. I don't know if we are doing enough. I think there's definitely things we can be doing more. Like, I know electric cars, they're coming and become a lot more popular soon, but it's something that we can definitely think about a lot more. I don't know if it's like we're doing enough. So I think there's definitely more that we can do.
I think there's definitely a lot more talk than there is action. So there's all talk about what we can do, what we should be doing, but then not all of that is necessarily being put into action. Like renewable energies, everyone's talking about it, but there's not many people doing stuff about it like right now, which is when we could do with it.
Yeah, I'd be quite optimistic. I think change will happen. It's just a matter of time. I think as more people, as there's more money to be made from green energy, green stuff, recycling, more people get involved with it, and I think it's just hoping that it becomes a profitable venture before it's too late.
And so do you think by the time, say, you're in your 50s, a few years down the line yet, do you think it'll be a very different world to the world we're living in now?
Yeah, definitely. I think whether that's for the better or the worse, it's definitely going to be a lot different than it is now. I'd like to think that we'll have made lots of progress and climate change might not be as much of a issue by then, but it all depends on what we do now to change that further down the line.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think we're going to see massive difference as we grow older. I think it's a lot of talk now, but soon enough the talk is going to have to become action. So I think when we're older we're going to see a lot more change.
Aidan, Archie, Amelie, thanks very much indeed for talking to us on the podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.